Welcome to the CMO Scoop. I'm your host, Lara August. I'm the CEO of Robot Creative. We have worked with thousands of what we call very large, small businesses. So we write marketing plans, provide marketing leadership to companies on a part-time basis. Those consultants are called fractional CMOs or chief marketing officers. We have a team of talented directors and a growing network of CMOs that we place with our clients, and each of them brings their own unique background and perspective to the table. So I'm taking advantage of that with this podcast, and every month I have a conversation with one of our CMOs or directors, and we cover topics and recurring themes that we see in these very large small businesses that we work with. So today, my special guest is Lana Harris. She is my business partner, and she is the marketing director here at Robot Creative. So today, hot topic, we're going to be discussing AI and all of the impact that that has had on the world of SEO and just search in general. So Lana, if you could kick us off and tell us a little bit about your background in SEO, I think that will help us get started.
Absolutely. So I've worked in kind of SEO and marketing, digital marketing for specifically SEO for the past 18 years or so. It's been a mix of kind of B2B businesses, B2C, small mom and pops, all the way up to the very large kind of small businesses you were just talking about, and really have been working on it as it's evolved. So when it first came out, SEO was it was a game. It was how do you add your keywords and what is now called keyword stuffing, and how do you play the game with Google. Since then, it's evolved. Google's algorithm has gotten more discerning. It has definitely been a lot more judgmental on your site, and has taken a lot of the technical considerations in to how fast your site is performing and loading, things like that. But now AI is just a whole different world. It's much more natural language based and has really just blown open the SEO world.
Okay, so you're diving right into it. Like, if you could just start by saying, what are the major SEM changes that you're seeing with the introduction of AI? But start by telling us what GEO is, because that's part of this as well. What does that stand for?
Yes, so GEO is generative engine optimization. So it's really looking at how AI agents and kind of those AI bots are discovering content out there on the internet. So it's a little bit different. You know, when we think about the past, everything was about Google. What does Google think, and how is your site discoverable by Google? And probably 10 years ago, 15 years ago, Google had 95% of the search. But then other platforms started to rise. So YouTube became a very influential search engine. The social media, introduced native search within their platforms. And now AI has taken people's search outside of, a search engine altogether. So it's really broadening not what is being searched, but how you might be found.
Okay. So obviously, there's a lot of different algorithms to contend with, right? But also opportunities, since it's not all Google anymore, right?
Yeah.
So how are our listeners going to be able to take advantage of that?
Well, I think it's all about understanding the user behavior. So when users are using Google, they search a certain way. When they're in ChatGPT or Perplexity, or even within Copilot in an office system, they're searching much more comprehensive queries. They're seeking to understand. They're looking for education. They're trying to compare and contrast things and really pull together big analysis. And that is just a different way that the engine searches. So you have to make sure you're matching your content on your site to be able to take advantage of that.
Okay. And so now, as opposed to just showing up in Google, you can show up in all of these different search engines, if you know, that people are using for search, the AI search engines. But I understand that there's a lot of technical website considerations, right? So probably a lot of people are joining us today to know, okay, so how do we do it? How do we take advantage of it? How do you get started?
So there's a couple of different things with technically that you need to be aware of. Whether it was Google that you're, SEO, traditional SEO, or AI, GEO, your site still needs to perform, which means it still needs to load quickly. It still needs to be mobile friendly. All of those things haven't changed because if the site doesn't perform well, it's not going to be discoverable in really any of those platforms. With AI, there's an additional kind of technical constraint with the rise in spam bots and form bots. There's a lot of work being done to block all of that like non-real, non-human traffic. And what has happened at the very beginning of AI, there was a lot of backlash. So everyone was like blocking the bots, which included the AI agents. And so you have to consider now that everyone still should be trying to block, malicious or just non-useful search bots on your site. Specifically those that are going to spam your inbox and fill out forms and crash your site. But you don't want to be blocking those AI agents that are doing real-time searches. And so that is a little bit of a consideration when you look at technical setups with Cloudflare or other types of security measurement tools, that you are not unilaterally flagging and blocking all non-human traffic.
So you don't want to go in and turn off your security. You just have to adjust the settings. Is that what you do?
Yeah. Okay. So there's a couple of different settings. One that is a very aggressive, that kind of blocks non-human visitors just from even entering the site, which makes you basically invisible to AI agents. But you can if you don't have that on, you can still be very aggressive about not letting non-humans on your form. And that's really where you should focus on, is protect your forms, but let the traffic come into your site.
Okay. That sounds great.
Yeah. And then with AI agents, there's also a different way to make your site discoverable. So with Google and SEO, everyone's very familiar with resubmitting your sitemaps through Search Console or other tools. There's a similar tool with AI search, and it's an LLMS text file for that specifically puts the infrastructure of your site together to tell large language models how your site is structured and what content you have. So it makes it easier for those tools to read your site. And those are kind of the three major things that you want to consider.
Okay. So say that last part again. Like, what is the type of file that everybody needs to be aware of, that everybody needs to be submitting or using to make sure that they're being read?
It's an LLMS.txt file. Which is like a sitemap, but it's something that you have to curate and then upload onto the back end of your site. Tools that you might use for traditional SEO, like a tool we use, which is the Yoast plugin, now has a feature where you can automatically create this LLMS file on the back end of the site. So the tools are all coming out with ways to help create these files and get you found.
Okay. So if any of you out there listening don't have a tool, it might be time to look into that, or at least make sure that you're doing your research and understanding how you're using security on the back end of your site so that you're not inadvertently blocking the AI search agents and bots. And then you also want to make sure that you're structuring your site in the correct way by including these certain types of files. And then Lana, also like on the front end of the website, like how do you approach making things, AI friendly? What do you do differently from traditional SEO?
So one of the things that started building for SEO was because so many questions were the long tail keywords, were questions that you wanted to answer. So the beginning of FAQ pages was really answer to those long tail keyword queries. But what happened was all the questions got put on an FAQ page. With AI, you want not only the questions and the answers, but the context, which relates to your main service pages and your solutions that you're providing. So a trick, if you want to call it that, that we found very successful is break up your FAQs and categorize them by theme, by content, by service solution, however it makes sense, and then put a segment of FAQs on each of the major pages that you really care about people visiting. And then for SEO, you're going to want to use Schema markup to flag that page as having FAQs. And then the LMS file will tell the AI agents that there are FAQs there. So that all works together. They both work really well in terms of like how to get that information to show up more for both SEO and GEO.
Okay. So FAQs have always been really important, though that's something that obviously has been a standard practice. I think when we started hearing all the voice assistants like Alexa and Google and things like that, also that like using more of that natural language model like that just works really well with the FAQs because you can write questions in the way that someone would ask. So it makes sense that the AI agents are working with even more elaborate questions and prompts and things like that. Anybody that's really dug into AI themselves will know that like it's all about the prompt. It's all about asking the most specific question that you can to get the right answer. So, I wonder if you can tell us, like, other than FAQs, like what else? What else do you recommend?
Right. So it's definitely about the content that you have on the page. So blogs and case studies are still great long form content that helps the large language models understand bigger concepts. And what you really want to make sure you do is your blogs and case studies need to be very informational and very helpful, not salesy. But then you want to link it to the service page that is a little bit more salesy so that you can create that association between those pages. So what we find being really effective is to make sure you include a teaser or some type of, section on your service page that links over to really key important blogs or case study content. And then on those pages, always reference back to the service you're talking about and create that kind of link back strategy. That can be really good, as well as just thinking about the users that are coming to your site. AI in particular wants to know who's benefiting from this content and how are you solving their problem. So anywhere where you can talk about how a service or a solution is solving a particular person's problem, that helps the AI agents understand why they should serve up that content if somebody's asking it in a query or a prompt.
Okay, that's great advice. And again, if any of you all have questions, it seems like we've got one in the QA. Tangela, do you want to let us know what questions we have coming in?
I do, because it's related to the topic you just discussed. And so we have an attendee who would like to know if the Shopify brands will have any of these tools natively, specifically the LLM document that you referenced. LLMS document that you referenced.
I think if they don't already, they will be coming out with it. But the nice thing about Shopify, has such a large marketplace of integrations and apps that work with it that if they don't right now, you can plug in with another tool that will help provide that for you. So it's a great platform, and they're always developing new tools and resources.
Yeah, you'll absolutely be able to find that in the partner marketplace. I would second that. Like it's very good at serving clients' needs. So, okay, moving on just a little bit. So I hear you saying that we need to beef up content on our websites. With all of this content, can I use AI to generate the content? Is that crazy?
It's not crazy, but there is a little bit of a nuance there. So Google from the start, was very public about saying that they were not going to rank AI generated content and it was going to be a detriment to your website. They haven't publicly pulled that back necessarily, even though they have their own AI tools. But it's really more about using AI tools to help either inform or polish your content. So ways that we find you can use it is really using it as a data dump to talk through what content you're going to write, what your perspectives are, what the solutions are, and having it give you some voice and tone variations or clean it up grammatically. I always use a tool. If I have AI touch any type of content, I always put it into Grammarly. That's one of my favorite tools because they have both a plagiarism and an AI checker tool. So I don't want anything to ever get flagged as plagiarism because Google will downrank you for that. And I want to make sure that it doesn't sound like an AI tool, even if it came from me and then it got rewritten slightly. I don't ever want it to have that kind of sound to it that everyone kind of knows. And so you can get that checked. And so I think that utilizing the tool to be more efficient and to clean things up, be an editor, is a great way to use AI. There's a big difference between that and then sitting down and, asking the tool to write you a blog about SEO, for instance.
Right. It'll absolutely take everything off the internet, average it, and provide a response to that. But that's not your own thought leadership, your company's spin, your take. And that's where it winds up getting flagged because it's obviously this kind of like internet average of everything that's out there. So there's a big difference between writing a blog or dictating your thoughts and having it help you clean it up. Or as you mentioned, asking it if anything is missing. That's really different from sitting down and asking a chatbot to just write it for you.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Awesome. So you don't want to use it to develop the content, but are there other ways that you can use the tools?
Yeah. So it's also great for kind of initial research. So looking up keywords, having it find, the most relevant and prevalent keywords that are going to be educational and help you rank in a certain vein. It can do a lot of research also to help give you kind of audience perspectives and really help understand the audience pain points and perspectives so that you can write to those as solutions. So there's a lot of ways that you can use AI to help with the content strategy and development.
Okay, awesome. So you're using AI to help, not to develop.
Yes, that's a great way to put it.
Perfect. So how do you know if what you're doing is working or not? How do you know if the AI is picking you up?
So there are ways to build views and dashboards in, like, say, Google Analytics. Almost everybody has analytics kind of embedded on their site. Other people have different analytics tools, but Google does have a way to build those dashboards. For whatever reason, they don't make it easy and they don't have them pre-made. So it is a little bit of a struggle to put that together natively inside the platform. But what I find is if you have a paid tool that is an SEO tool, it kind of has that already baked in. So we use a tool called SEMrush. They have both SEO and AI GEO kind of dashboards that will help you measure specifically keyword ranking and visibility. So that you can kind of get those insights to help understand what you need to do next and which pages need more attention.
Okay. So yeah, Google Analytics, so powerful. I wish that they would just make it easy because those dashboards are pretty brutal. So if you know your way around Google Analytics and you're comfortable building those dashboards, that would be a native way to do it without another paid tool. But there are lots of paid tools available that you can look into to see if they have the AI features, and they're all baking that in. That's becoming a fairly standard thing. So you could compare and contrast them because they're literally changing with every update. All of these tools are trying to innovate and keep up with one another. So it's a little bit of the Wild West. And, just kind of looking at what each of the tools have on their action plan. And, I think right now is a time to be rapidly evaluating and reevaluating all of the tools that you're using because there's going to be such dramatic change. So I don't usually recommend switcheroo all the time, but right now, just because the situation is so dynamic that it might make sense, or even running a couple of different tools to see how they compare might make sense.
You will find that all often where if you're looking at 2 or 3 different tools, especially ones that are doing something very specific, like evaluating your visibility in AI, and they give you a score. Well, you look at 2 or 3 other tools, they're going to give you a completely different number. So it really is a good idea to do a little bit of a compare and contrast before settling on a tool, because if you don't even know what your benchmark should be, it's a little bit of a trial and error. So find a tool that seems reliable and can give you kind of regular updates.
There's also all-in-one SEO, SEMrush. So there's a variety of them out there. If you just search, SEO tools and reporting, you'll find a ton of tools if you're not already familiar with them.
One of the other things inside these tools that I do really like, and they oftentimes do them all a little bit different, but it's the competitive analysis. So I was mentioning benchmarks. If you don't have a benchmark and you don't really know what your visibility score should be, for instance, you can do competitive analysis and look at your major peers and role models and competitors to see how they're scoring, either overall on the website, or what I like a lot as I'm really digging into it is on keyword set specifically or page specifically, so that you can understand, oh, well, their page that talks about this solution and my page is dramatically different on scores. Now I'm going to go sleuth them to see what they're doing that I might be missing. So it can be really good for the person that's actually working on the tool to like dig a layer or even 2 layers deeper using these tools to understand, what do I do about it? What do I do next?
Yeah. And competitive benchmarking, that's what it's all about anyway, right? Like it makes so much sense to get a tool and to use a tool like that can help you understand how you're faring versus the competition. Okay, Tangela, it looks like you've got some more questions queued up for us. I want to encourage you all to add questions in the QA.
Yes. So the first question is, you were talking about tools. And so I want to make sure we cover, if we haven't already covered this one, but what's a great tool for someone trying to ramp up SEO practices for multiple accounts and websites? Managing upwards of 30 plus sites is tough when tools are expensive for an enterprise level price point.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's one of the reasons why we've decided to use SEMrush, because we can have multiple accounts. They're called projects. And so we can create one for each client and be able to dig into that dashboard and look specifically at one client, pop back out and go work on another one in any given time. So that one is user-based, but with a team account, everyone can have access to everyone's project. So that's a really good one. But a lot of the different tools are like that, where they allow for multiple tools or multiple client accounts. The difference is some of them might be, they charge by how many keywords you're tracking, or they charge by how many users you have on the platform. So always look at that. And in my opinion, find the one that's most economical in your scenario.
And also, like, that shouldn't be your internal expense. I think you should look at passing that expense on to your clients. So it is very customary for agencies. If you're in a agency environment, I would assume supporting multiple clients, that you should be able to charge a technology fee. If they were to hire someone internally who was going to manage their SEO, they would also need a tool, and there's a typical cost that would require to be able to manage it. So I think you can charge for your services, and you can also charge for a technology fee, or you could bake it into your services. So like Lana said, depending on the type of tool that you find and how they price, if it's by account or if it's by user or if it's based on credits, depending on usage, you can kind of evaluate how you're going to be charged and then find a way to mark up and pass that on to the client, because they need it. It's not work that you can do without it really very easily.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. I'm going to ask one more. We've got an attendee who wants Lana to expound more on long tail keywords.
Sure. So if you're familiar, if you're actively working on SEO, Google Search Console is probably a tool that you're evaluating or checking in on to see how your site is performing on keywords. Long tail specifically means the long keywords phrases that relate to more sentence structure. So everyone looks at short keywords, and those are ones that probably have high volume, but are really hard to rank for because everyone's going after them. So in an IT, let's say, scenario, you might provide managed services. So IT managed services is going to be a short keyword phrase, and it's going to have a high volume of search, and it's going to be very hard for any individual site to rank for within your geography if you've got a lot of competitors. But if someone's typing in IT managed service companies in Texas for small businesses, that's an example of a long tail keyword where, because there's less search volume on that specific phrase, you can embed that content into your blogs, into your service pages, and that helps you rank and get a larger share while also still working towards that main IT managed services keyword overall. And so that's kind of the difference. And I didn't mention it earlier, but the difference between that's kind of Google keyword strategy, and AI tools is AI tools don't need that exact phrase. Somebody can ask something like that, and you can have phrase and language like that is geared towards the same content and meaning. And the LLMS, the large language models, they get it and they put those pieces together. Whereas traditional SEO does not. You have to be kind of much closer to a one-to-one comparison. Hope that helps.
It's a great question. Do you all have any other additional questions before we kind of move on?
Yes, I was going to give you a little bit of a break, but go ahead. We've got one more that we can cover. Okay. So we've got an attendee who said, I recently used Jasper AI to generate textual content, a blog, and improve Google rankings, and I got good results. My question is, are there any specific principles or best practices we should follow when writing prompts for it in order to optimize and achieve better results?
Yes. So I definitely think if you're utilizing any of the AI tools, as we talked before, to write blogs or other types of content, the more details you give it and the more perspective, the better. So if you're writing a blog, you want to tell the tool what keywords you're really trying to optimize for, what the topic is, who your audience is that you want to be reading it, and what you want them to take away from it, including specific things that would be your organization or business perspective, like what you think is most important, what you think is less important, what kind of solutions and services might be the best fit for a company like that, those types of things. You want it to be as specific as possible so that it doesn't come across as generic and bland.
Yeah, and doing that long tail keyword research in advance, right? Like this is the great, use the AI tools to hack the AI tools, right? So using them to ask what are the most commonly asked questions surrounding XYZ topic. And then, then you could even prompt it to go a layer deeper and say, what are more specific variations that you're seeing, or industry specific variations, or, long tail variations that you're seeing, and see if it comes up with anything more detailed. So the more specific the information is that you put into it, the better the results are going to be, for sure.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Okay. So Lana, do you have any further thoughts on, if people are trying to get started with all of this, how do you go and just quickly assess where you are right now? Like if I wanted to look at a website and just kind of benchmark and figure out where it is, how do you recommend going about that?
Honestly, I suggest going to an AI tool and seeing and asking questions and creating prompts that you want your site to come up for. Put yourself in the mind of your customer and ask questions they would ask and see if any of your content shows up. If it doesn't, then you might need to look if there's any technical things blocking you from visibility. And if you do show up, does it represent you the way you want to be represented? I mean, I think that's a really great first step in just getting an assessment. Where are we at with that? And then you can figure out how to dive deeper.
I'm actually going to encourage people, because we kind of blew through a lot of the content that we had really quickly. If any of you want to open up another window in the background right now and hit GPT or Perplexity or Claude, whatever you're using, and just ask it an industry specific question that you would hope would come up with your website, and see what happens. See if your competitors come up, see if you're a smaller company, if it's just the big fish that come up. Like, I'd love for you to like actually try that experiment in real time and then hit us up with questions if you have any. And Tangela, you must have a question.
I do have a question. So how can we influence how AI summarizes our services?
So I think it definitely is is influenced by the actual content on your website. So how you summarize it on your website is going to influence how they that information. So, but just remember, they don't typically take it word for word. They kind of look at your entire page, your entire website, and summarize it. So thinking through what that summary would be, you can feed your entire service page to an AI tool and say, summarize this for me, and see what it says. You can run prompts to evaluate kind of credibility factors and other types of like triggers that AI tools like in a page, and get yourself a score on a page by page basis.
If you do that 2 times, or if you do it in 3 different AI agents, you will get completely different summaries. So this is the thing that makes me crazy about AI, is that it's 100% confident and 90% accurate, or maybe 80, depending, right? So it really is a challenge. And it's not like we have back-end code like Schema or something that you can add to your website to kind of lock in on your terminology. So it's about like being very precise and consistent with how you portray yourself and your services, so that hopefully it doesn't leave a lot of room for misinterpretation, but it still might.
Yeah. And you bring up a good point. You will get different results. You'll get different layouts. You'll get different types of responses, even when you put the same prompt in multiple times. So one thing is really working with your AI agent tools consistently, and giving it feedback and telling it what kind of formats you like, to really try and start to like bring that into kind of a repeatable process, which also is not, fail safe, especially if you're on any free tools. Let me say that.
Yeah. But even with the paid ones, I find the drift to be the most frustrating part of the experience. Is just, there's just drift.
You're like, I already told you that. Don't do that.
Or like, I asked you to change this and you changed all these other things when they should have stayed the same. Right. So they're really powerful and really weird. All the same.
Yeah. And I think the biggest point is you can't treat them as like an independent producer. You have to treat them like they're an employee, and you are the manager. So don't forget to manage them, and really always question whether or not it's legitimate. Ask it, even if you gave a prompt about like, oh, I'd like you to scan this transcript and, whatever. Did you use this, or did you make up something else? I every time I do something, I will ask, did you actually do what I asked you to do? And about 50% of the time, they're like, sorry, I just made something up on my own.
That's my least favorite thing, is when the AI, if I say like, wait, I just asked you to summarize this transcript, but you added a bunch of stuff that wasn't in the transcript, and it'll go like, yeah, my bad.
Yeah, pretty much.
Here's a revision without it. And I'm like, oh.
So you definitely have to manage them.
Yeah. We have another question.
We do. And this is in 2 parts. I'm just going to ask them in parts. First part is there any significant data showing that AI searches are taking over search engine results pages? And I've read that younger generations are not using Google anymore, but only ChatGPT or others.
So I kind of brushed on this at the beginning. It's not necessarily taking over. It's just expanding where you can be found. So people are still going to Google, but they're also working in chat. They're also working in Perplexity or Claude. And it's just like when YouTube and the social channels created native search. They do search, but they also do these other things. And so you really, to be in the best position, you kind of need a dual approach. You need to keep optimizing for Google, and you need to also now ramp up on your AI visibility.
And you're not wrong about young people using, they don't, I have a 9-year-old, and in that generation, they don't even say Google it anymore. They say search it up. It's go ask any like little kid, like, hey, when you need to look for something on the internet, like what do you call that, or what do you say? It's kind of mind blowing that they don't. That's just not even part of their vocabulary. So they are searching in YouTube, they're searching in Instagram. Younger people, not obviously, like hopefully a 9-year-old's not on Instagram, but even into like high school, the whole Gen Z and Gen A or Gen I love Gen Alpha as being called Gen AI, which is so appropriate. Those two generations are less likely, I think. I don't know what the exact data is, but they're not going to Google. They're going to Reddit. They're going to social media sites. Like it's all over the place. So I definitely think this is important to understand how AI is changing the landscape of search. And again, like it's a little bit of the Wild West. Like the data on this is, we're trying to get our feet underneath us and keep up with it. And every time there's a new data source, we'll try to like blog or present about it, but it is tricky to keep up with.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a very fast evolution. I think we're in the AI kind of evolution era, and those always rapidly evolve. So we're just trying to hang on.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for that answer. The part B to the question is, do you think that ads and the AI tools are going to change anything?
There's always going to be someone who's going to monetize the thing. So get us hooked first and then monetize it. Right. So it will change things. It's not going to change user behavior dramatically. I think people are already flooding to the AI tools. Then you'll start to see the ads, and then eventually they'll flock away to the next big thing. But Facebook, Instagram, YouTube are still wildly successful despite, or popular, I would say, and now monetarily successful with the introduction of advertising. So it's just the natural next step, I think.
Yeah.
All right. One more. What happens when AI incorrectly misrepresents our brand or pulls incorrect information?
Well, what happens? I mean, it misrepresents you. I mean, there's not a whole lot of direct recourse. I think it is just the flag that you need to go evaluate why it's making that assumption about you. There is something out there either on your site or on the internet somewhere that you're being associated with incorrectly. And so that's just the tipping point of going to find that and correcting it because it's coming from somewhere.
Yeah, if you find something on one search and like on one AI agent, like ChatGPT or something where the sources aren't readily available, it might be better to go to something like Perplexity where they're better at listing the actual sources and references and asking it there as well. Because if you're using multiple search AI search tools or AI agents and you're kind of getting the same misrepresentation, it would be great if you could link back to whatever the source of that is, because you might find it's your website, you might find it's a review site, you might find it's somebody else's blog if you have a product or service that's been compared or contrasted to other products or things like that. Without knowing exactly, hopefully you aren't having a horrible misrepresentation out there. So without knowing exactly, what the issue is that you're seeing, it's hard to know exactly how to tackle it. But those are maybe some starting places. It's just to see if you can figure out where did it get this idea in the first place.
And you can always ask the agents to give you the sources directly so that you can go click on them. Sometimes it's also 80% inaccurate sometimes, but that is a good way to double check that. And I always tell the AI agents when they're wrong. So don't be afraid to tell them, I think you got that wrong because this link does not go to a page that says anything like this. And they will apologize. I don't know if they do anything with it, but I like to think somewhere in there that's making them better.
I think you're just using more water. It's just more energy. It's like saying please to the AI agents. I've heard that you're not supposed to say please because just those characters, it's like an extra toilet flush or something like that we're wasting. So for what it's worth.
Oh, that's great.
Hilarious. Okay, I do have another question. So, in terms of prioritization, how do you prioritize which pages to optimize for GEO?
Great question.
That is a good question. So it depends on the structure of your site. In a typical like B2B model, your first few pages in your main navigation are typically going to be your service or solution pages. Those are the pages, in addition to your homepage, that really matter. Those are the ones that tell the story about what you're providing and who you are and what value you're bringing to your customers. So I would always start on those. For more B2C, you might have, if it's e-commerce, you're going to have, product pages and things like that. If it's more like a restaurant, the menu page is going to be naturally the most important section. You can create other content specifically by putting them on the location pages that help add FAQs and other content. Even blogs and recipes and things like that can help drive people in to your main pages by adding more content.
Yeah. So if those aren't already SEO optimized and don't have like FAQs and things that might be a good response to the natural language models, then I think that is a really, really good place to start. And then not focusing on things like blogs and case studies, secondary content until you've got those already set. And if you have a lot of products or a lot of services, just another idea, because I know sometimes we work with companies that have lots of products. And so we'll prioritize, we'll look at like which of them are the highest margin or, just what are the business goals? Like which do you want to focus on first? Which are the things that you want to stand out the most and kind of like start your work plan there, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So we've got some questions about imagery. What are the pros and cons of using AI generated images in your blog articles?
Well, the pros is going to be it's real easy to do. I think the problem is if it's not original content, it may not do much for you from an AI perspective. They want real content that represents real products or services. And so if it's a service-oriented business, that's maybe better to try and have as much real content as possible. But AI-generated imagery, whether it's like edited from original or things like that, can be very useful in getting stuff up there very quickly.
I think product labels, like taking like a product and putting it in a new setting, or labels and putting them on a product rapidly. Like, I guess if you have a follow-up question, feel free to put that and give us a little bit more information about the type of business you are, then we can speak specifically to it. I think with imagery, hopefully it's something that you're not just generating completely AI generated images, but you're feeding it something that relates to what you are, like uploading, again, like your label to put on a generic product, like that could be great. So it depends on what you're working with, but there shouldn't be any inherent problem with using AI generated images in terms of the AI reading it or understanding what it is. That shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
All right. This is a question that is very popular. So does it make sense to naturally incorporate FAQs in the flow of the content, or is it better to have a traditional list of question and answer format?
I have typically done them as a section in the site to where it is easily identifiable for the user as they scroll down the page. Like, here's the section for FAQs. If there's more nuanced answers that might take a longer form to answer, I reformat that into a content block that really talks more specifically about a solution or a service, as opposed to just dotting in FAQs down the page. That, Lara, you might have an opinion about how
does the schema work? Like, the schema is like backend code that indicates where the FAQs actually are physically on the page, right? Isn't it?
It does, but you repeat it on the back end. So like in the schema, you repeat the FAQs, so it already has it in there, and so you're basically flagging the page. So I mean, I think you could technically do it, but I think in terms of users, like actual humans that are reading the page, I think you have to think about what makes the most sense from reading down the page and whether or not those questions and answers fit really well, like, oh, these are questions for that paragraph above, like, then that makes really good sense. It just depends on the user experience that you're trying to provide.
Right. So how do we retrofit older content for AI visibility?
I think that one is just like you would update content for any type of SEO update on an ongoing basis. You want to look at how you're talking about your product or service or solution and ask whether or not you're being helpful and educational or you're being salesy. You want to ask if you have the right phrases and, kind of keywords embedded, and really just, thinking about, AI wants to know that it's that you're solving a problem, that you're talking to a specific person, you're telling them who is going to benefit from this piece of content. So as long as you're really thinking through that, I think you can reformat a copy or a page to kind of answer all those questions.
Lana, I wonder if this is another one of those, like, can I use AI to tell me how to update my page to be more friendly for AI? And I feel like, again, like, you do it in 3 different AI chats, you're going to get 3 different responses. Even if it's the same agent, you use 3 different agents, it's definitely going to be different. But that would be an interesting thing. It would be to just feed the AI agent the URL and say, how would you update this page to be more AI friendly or visible? Yeah. And I think that you might get really interesting responses. Again, might be good to do it in a couple of them because you might get a mixed bag of results. And then, keep note. We do this on any SEO project that we're working on, is like, keep a diary or a log of what you're changing and how and why. Like, keep those old pages, like, document what that was and document, what the new one is, kind of like version control. If you're using WordPress or you have something that stores the versions in the back end, you don't have to do that. But if not, make sure that you're saving those so that you can really evaluate the results after 30, 60 days and see if the performance has changed for the better or for the worse, because you may find that you're doing really well in some areas and maybe that killed something else. That's just always the, double-edged sword with any SEO updates.
Yeah, it's all about keeping track of what you did and when you did it, because when you start looking back at results again, because we're doing this for a reason, you really want to be able to understand what made the change, either up or down, so that you know what to do on the next round.
Awesome. So this next question is about headers. Do headers matter more now? And should we be writing question-based headers?
So if you have your H1 in the header, it still matters because it is definitely the first piece of content that is telling either Google or an AI agent what this page is about. I don't think those have to be questions because you are also writing to the human user that's visiting the page as well. So you have to frame it out so that they understand what you're doing and where you're going. So I don't think they have to be questions. I think as long as you're understanding what people are asking and utilizing questions and answers on your page, I think you're going to be fine. But I don't think it is necessary that it has to be in the header.
Yeah, that might be more appropriate in like a blog section or something like that. You wouldn't want to redo your service pages to just be like back-end content for an AI bot, because then it's going to affect your usability. So SEO has always been this crazy balance between like making it highly usable for your website, guests versus like making it bot friendly. And so I would say still work on that balance.
All right, that was my last one for now. And we can ask some more as we wrap up later.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're approaching time. So I want to say, like, we'll give you another moment or so. If you want to put any final questions in the chat, we can stay on a couple minutes afterwards. But for those of you that need to leave, I just want to say thank you for joining us today. It's been really great. You have had incredible questions. This is probably some of the most interaction we've seen. Of course, this is a huge topic. So really appreciate you being here and participating. On our next episode, I'm going to be talking to Belinda Goodmanson. She is our creative director, and we are going to be talking about website trends. That is going to be recorded live on Wednesday, March 18th at noon Central Time. So if you'd like to join us, that would be great. I don't think we have that live yet on our website or on Eventbrite. So if you missed the announcement at the beginning, Tangela, I think, can put a link to a brief survey in the chat. If you have a moment to give us some feedback, I would really appreciate it. And just additionally, we don't have permission to message you outside of Eventbrite unless you opt in. So the best way to stay in touch is to join our mailing list. Then we can notify you of upcoming episodes, also give you access to articles and tools that are not available through Eventbrite. So we will put a link to our website where you can sign up for our mailing list. And then if you love Eventbrite and this is your favorite channel, you can definitely follow us on Eventbrite for notifications about upcoming live episodes if you want to join in. Past episodes are available on YouTube. It takes us about a week or so to get those recordings live. I play with my hair a lot and we like to edit that out. So for what it's worth, we'll have those recordings live. And we also have my link tree that we can put in the chat. So it has all of these different ways to connect. If you need to hop off, you can click on that link tree and save it for later, bookmark it, and then you can connect with me in any of these different ways. So really appreciate you all being here. Thank you for joining us for this live recording. And we'll stay on for like 1 or 2 minutes if there are any questions. Otherwise, we'll give a wave at the end and hopefully see you on a future episode. Thank you so much.